right, another walking and talking. This one is from CollinTrap. Great vid. Do you have any ideas for an indie horror game? Mm, it's interesting. Horror is a big. I'm a big fan of the genre. Both me and my wife. Oh yeah, big heart. Yep, going there for sure. Are big horror movie people. Love them. We love being scared. We love being uncomfortable. Her like top one that messed her up was Fourth Kind, I think. Is that right? The one where they're like talking in ancient Sumerian and they have like, I mean, wow, that's kind of sweet, right? The perfect symbol for the horror genre, right? Just a giant heart. That one messed her up because she it had some like air quotes found footage, or like what actually took place. So they made the movie and then they're like, here's the actual footage from the interviews, and she's like, oh my god, was this real? I very quickly told her it wasn't. I think it was Fourth Kind. And I'm more into like the like nice, very nice. Oh, so that's a runner in behind, huh? The Ring was just to kind of give you an idea of what kind of horror kind of works for me in particular. I remember the Ring movie being something that I went home and like got out of my car and I thought I saw Samara in my backyard and I was like, oh fuck, dude. Okay, that's an interesting spot for that. And like the paranormal activities, so that it's not so much the. Oh shoot, is that a blower? Oh, that would have been bad. All right, so you got two out there. Good to know. I kind of like the more subtle stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable a little bit. Just kind of puts you kind of not at ease. I like these little patrollers he's got going on. What an interesting base. Let's just get this rolling. Oh, you got the whole fam up here, huh? Get some of these bolts because I really... Yeah, let's just bring them here. I do have some tips, if not actual ideas for horror, and I'll just... Let me just take care of this real quick. That was not too bad. All the carnage here. Well... Lots of stuff. So... Keep trying to talk. Keep trying to walk. That's what you're getting better at. I hope. Ah, yeah, I'm going to bring you, though, real quick. So... I had a Cub Scout leader, or whatever you, that I remember telling us really scary stories. And I caught up with him later on when I was older. He was a dad of somebody. I don't remember who. But how much we loved his, like... It's kind of scary stories. Man, there's a lot to deal with here. And kind of how he made him scary. And one thing that always stuck with me is you really can't compete with anyone's own imagination. And so the more kind of form you give something, the more you explain details or the person who you're trying to scare understands it, the less afraid they are. I kind of touch on that weirdly enough in another video. Look, I like how he has him patrolling, so you can't really hit him. That's kind of that's cool. And I didn't, so I get to pay. Oh boy. Okay, so we're gonna get out and just reset because I got a bolt back. I touch on it in another video where I say it's the more you can educate people, the less afraid they are, because what they don't understand, that really scares them. If you don't really understand or get something, it can freak you out because, how do you deal with something you don't understand? And I think the same applies for horror, and it's why darkness is such a common theme is, if you don't know what's out there in the dark, your own imagination will form kind of the scariest thing for you. And that's why you want to keep people you're trying to scare in their own heads, because you'll never oh man, that armor is just sucky for me. If it's dark out there and they're just hearing sounds, their own mind is gonna create like, is it a giant spider? Are they afraid of spiders? Or it's just hard for someone. Certain people are more resistant to it than others, but on the whole, I think people will kind of be like, oh man, what if there's a giant, I don't know, snake out there. And suddenly, you know, it's like, oh, it's, you know, in their own head, suddenly it's a giant snake out there. So the more you can kind of let them draw their own conclusions, the better off you'll be. And the reason I brought that guy up is he used to tell scary stories. And I always remember being like, man, he just really got us. It's because he never really described the thing in full detail. He kind of let us wander. And as people were kind of inside their own heads, it'd be like, wait, how big is he? You know, like, oh man, I wish I could tell you, you know? And someone else is like, what if it's like 7 feet tall or something? And then suddenly people are like forming these things in their head of what they think, you know, this monster is. And we got it to be like really terrifying for all of us. You know, we all added parts of things that we didn't like. And we kind of crowdsourced his story for him and built it for him. And okay, I wanted to get that, but I'm not fudging with that. So I'll get it now. Hang on. Now that I know what's up. So I would say the more you leave to people's imaginations, the better off and the stronger effect you'll get. I think Paranormal Activity did a fairly good job of that. I mean, you see a little bit of it. Ooh, that's a nice little tricky spot there. Just keep strafing. Missing hella bolts here. Yeah, I'm probably going to need to get that one. So we're going to do this. One of these, and then like one of those. So, you know, working with, I mean, you can definitely start, and I'm not an expert, obviously, you know. That's a double fire. Got it. It's not an Orby, so that's cool. But yeah, I think leaving a lot up to humans themselves to come up with, you can kind of force them to become their own worst enemy. You know, the fewer details and the more vague you make things, kind of the more people fill in the blanks, because I think it's in our nature to kind of like explain, because again, if we can't explain... Wow, how did I not activate that the first time? That's really poor of me. That's just shit judgment on my part. My fault. Yeah, kind of, you know, leave a lot of things. Sounds are great, you know. Making weird, creepy sounds are good. You can add those in, but also, you know, that kind of false sense of security, people feeling safe, you know, or like that there's nothing there. A lot of, you know, scares that don't really yield anything. So you really start putting people on edge. I think I said in one video, and I mean it. Okay, so this is one of those where like it's all guarded. Oh, all right. So is there like more traps down here or something? Or is it like no way to get out, really? No, there's a way to get out. Let that recharge. I said a really like interesting base would be one with like a majority of hollow blocks that don't do anything, because that would really fuck me up, and bringing me to high states of like feeling, you know, where I'm like getting adrenaline dumps, and then kind of like being like, oh, it's for nothing. I'm gonna start second guessing myself, and now you're playing me against myself. And I've gotten it. You're getting into my head, and now I'm getting into my own head, because I'll see the hollow blocks. I won't check. You know, after like the 10th one of going down an aisle with nothing, I'm gonna stop checking, because I can't devote resources to checking every single one of these. And in a way, you know, you might set up 10 that don't do anything, but the 11th kills somebody. And so there is something maybe. Ooh, that's right, something there, right? Ooh, above. Right. Forgot about you already. And this is a reset, so I got to remember that. But, you know, it's people who know their scary stuff, you know, they definitely know it by now. You know, the greats who know how to freak you out, they have a pretty good understanding of the psychology there. But I would say sometimes defining your fear or the thing that's scaring people is one, I don't know that you need to do it all the time. But two, letting people create their own worst fear in their head, I mean, you're always going to scare them more, because everyone's fear is different. And, you know, so if you can keep something open to interpretation, sometimes I think that's a little bit scarier. But, you know, you can always kind of lean into the classic things. that a lot of people seem to not really like being alone, the dark, not being able to see, you know, not being able to understand or assess threats, spiders, snakes, heights. What about like public speaking? And I mean, I know that's a weird one, but like, it'd be kind of interesting. Yeah, okay, it just wouldn't work. But I'm gonna say it anyway, just because it's fun for me. Like, what if you were in a video game that was, you know, it's like, this is gonna terrify you, and you go in, you're just running through the normal tropes. Man, I've lost all of my bolts here, and now I'm in a weird spot. So I'm gonna do this. Kind of dumb. Kind of go back. Get 2 bolts. So they're playing this game, and it's an online multiplayer game. You say that from the start, and then like they're just going through a normal kind of scary maze, and then they go out, and there's like curtains, and they're on stage, and lights are on, and there's a whole bunch of other live players that have also gone through that, and they've known and been in that person's spot, and they're like, you need to entertain everyone here before you can move forward. And you're like, oh my God. And I wonder how many people would just quit and never play again, or how many would just try. But like, the audience would be cool because you can only become the audience if you've gone through it yourself. I love how they stick into the wall. It's like one of the best. Don't ever fix that, devs, please. Where's this other? There he is. But you could only do it if you could only be in the audience if you yourself had passed it. And I just think, one, it would never work for a number of reasons. Also, you don't want to ostracize people and make people who are genuinely afraid of like public speaking feel like they're excluded for something. But it would be kind of a funny thing, right? Because if you're in the audience, you've been there. You know exactly what the fuck is going on with that. And just want to make sure that wasn't an Orby. Come back for that in a bit. You know, that's kind of sidelong, but it's hard to kind of think of stuff that hasn't. Oh, that's kind of a not good. I need to get my bolt back. That's a genre that has been both studied extensively, I think. I love that it's still stuck up there. That's so cool. But you're gonna. It's hard to. It's also harder to scare people, right? This day and age, much harder. I mean, there's just. Oh yeah, I see you, brute. Did I not? That's a problem. So right off the bat, you're kind of there, but yeah, I mean, I guess I you know, touch into the whatever the social. Don't move around on me, please. See, and that's what happens when you tempt the universe. You know, there's something out there. I can't prove it, and I can't always recreate it, but it seems like the universe has a sense of humor. My wife and I kind of joke about that. We call it USO, universe's sense of humor. And the more you sometimes fight it, the more it tries to get you, or the more you kind of poke its buttons, I guess, for lack of a better. Need to know what's going after me here. Is it high? Ah, behind. Yeah. I don't want to hit that yet, because that's kind of sucky. So here's what we'll do. We'll let them fire. Then I'm going to start cleaning up a little bit. We'll keep moving. And we'll clean up here. And we'll go up. Shot him right in the mouth. Not quite, though. Over there. Okay. So now I go up here. Okay, nothing on that. But you have your work cut out for you. You know, things that used to scare people in the 1920s. You know, that won't fly anymore. And people are pretty jaded, and they're pretty. Where's that one? Got to move because I don't see him. Oh my gosh! Yeah, you're way up there, huh? You know, overall, it's not a bad base. Really isn't. I'm in a bad spot, though. Oh, sorry, Harv. Hey, all right. Maybe I just take this and run. Oh, lordy lord. Guy knows what he is doing. A lot of budget on that. Gonna get me on one more. Let's see. Is it just that one? I feel like you're the type to add another. Nope. Okay. There it is. That's a deadly one. I haven't seen that, and that is pretty goddamn deadly. Really good placement on this. Right out there where you're supposed to go. If you didn't have a shield, that might get you. That's really good. That just changed one of my votes. To ingenious. It's artistic, but it's also, he did a good job. I honestly mean those both. All right, let's run into another one, because I've learned that I do a lot of talking, not a whole lot of walking. So let me adjust my shoe here. All right, cool. Because, you know, you got to have your shoes right when you're playing a video game. Let's see what we can get into. And I'll try and think of more stuff, but, you know, the stuff that... You know, Robinston. We ran... Someone sent me a map like this. This isn't that one, obviously. Depends on what you're kind of getting into. Are you looking for more like visceral fear, like things jumping out, fear for your life, or are you that existential fear? Because that's kind of something to think about. Like, you know, maybe it's too much, and maybe it's just not fun. You know, and again, a lot of the things I find fun, maybe other people don't. This is already kind of wild. I love this angular shit. But like existential dread is pretty scary. You know, I remember when I was like, I don't know, 7, I had like a chameleon, and when it died, I was like, you know, so what's this about? My mom's like, you know, that's just what happens to living things, you know. And I was like, well, you know, I'm living. She's like, yeah. I was like, am I gonna die? She's like, oh, wrong one. She was like, yeah, one day you will, you know. And I was like, oh, shit, that is not okay. Does not compute. Why isn't everyone freaking out? You guys, are you going to die one day? Yeah, one day. I'm like, oh, my God, my mom's going to die? What the hell? And I was like, have you guys talked about that? And she was like, you know, what do you mean? I was like, you know, like adults, have you guys, like, figured that out? And she's like, no. And I'm like, what the hell? Is someone working on it? Like, that's terrifying. We all die? Like, what? You know, she's like, yeah. And that fucked me up, man. So maybe, you know, maybe the existential, you know, part. But the whole idea with games, though, is a lot of times kind of entertainment and escape, right? You don't really want to, like, have to face your demons necessarily. Although, again, that's where things differ. You know, the things I find entertaining sometimes are things that push me to limits where I'm uncomfortable. Because I think that's where you grow sometimes, not always. You know, sometimes that shit'll just break you, and you don't want that. If things are breaking you and you're not, you know, you can't hang with it yet, or it's just not your jam, don't do it. Absolutely not. But if you feel like you can weather some stuff, you know, putting yourself out there is a good way sometimes to do it. You know, shit, very nice. Almost didn't hear you. Hell of a shot there. Wow. That was intense. Barely heard him in the background. You know, Joe Jack, I don't think anyone was rude to him about the CPU Melter 3000. I think he did a great job on that map. I think, though, that there are people out there who are like, well, one person's like, man, I just quit and leave and, you know, report him. And hey, you know, that's your prerogative, for sure. And I think you have a valid, what the heck is going on here? I think you have a valid point, you know, like, hey, this isn't really fun. And to you, I think that's true. And so I think that's a true statement, but it's not necessarily how everyone feels. And for someone like me, I think, do you have a point that maybe he made it not fun? Yeah. Do I think it's valid? Yeah. Do I think my feelings on it are valid? I do. And my feelings are, you know, damn, that's a hell of a good, look at that. That was nice. You're pushed in, and that's getting you. Something here, though, I think. And to me, he's an innovator. He's a line stepper, as most people are. And I think those types of people sometimes, you know, they kind of push the limits on things, but those are the people who discover things. Those are the people who find out new ways of doing stuff. They're the ones that, you know, I'm not saying Joe Jack's gonna, you know, find the cure for cancer or anything like that, but I think line steppers, habitual line steppers, the nature of what they do is they like to push things to the limit, and you know, sometimes they step over the line. Yep, that's kind of part of the danger, but they also find out new ways of doing things, and they're progressors, I guess. And I know they aren't always welcomed in, I guess, society sometimes, but they're important to us, all of us, as a role, just as the other people are, you know. And so I think what he did is kind of like you figured out something, dude. Whether it's for good or bad, it doesn't matter. You discovered something, and so, you know, people like him, I always got kind of a soft spot for, because I think, yeah, you know, they know how to disrupt things. That's what they are. You know, a trolley person is this guy can actually overswing me. If he overslams like that, sometimes that AoE will get you, so you got to be careful. They are people we need. Ooh, that's an unfortunate placement. Oh, I understand now. Okay, fair enough. Oh, was that a dub? That's great. Also, look at this shot. I mean, that's like something I want on my desktop, like wallpaper. But you know, pushing. Is that homie? Yeah, that's good. I like that. So sometimes maybe you just got to try something new. And you know, what scares you? Or, you know, what if it's like what if the horror game, wait, let me just make sure. Indie horror. Yeah, that's kind of hard. And I feel like I've kind of gotten off subject a little bit. If you're looking for like monster ideas or, you know, something like that, that's a good angle. This guy that made the space is actually pretty bright. Look at that. If that had been longer, that would have gotten me. Yeah. Can I activate another flame? Or is it out? Confused. But yeah, so I'll try and summarize my thoughts, because a lot of them are just, you know, I vomit out a bunch of crap, and then you got to like gather it up in a dustpan with sawdust, and you know, try and put something, you know, rational together. I would say let people use their imaginations. You'll never scare someone as much as they can scare themselves, ever, because they know exactly what they need to be afraid. I just wanted to make sure that was okay. So the more you let them lead, and that's kind of what that Cub Scout dude did when he used to tell those stories around the fire, is he kind of let us lead him, and we kind of told our own terrifying story, and at the end of it, we're like, that's the best story ever. You're such a great storyteller. And then years later, he's like, I just let you guys do it. You guys screwed yourself. All right, so this is a bait trap. I'll be ready. I did not get my shiz. There we go. Thank God for that radius. So let people create their own. Maybe take it in a different direction, although I will say most have been kind of utilized, so you just kind of have to maybe spin it in a different way. Existentialism and the dread that accompanies that, and the crises that accompany that. I mean, those are things where I'm like, you know, like I said, 7-year-old me was like, well, maybe a little older, because I feel like that's a pretty big thought for a 7-year-old. Although mine asked at 6, he knew everything about that, and he handled it like a champ. But we had to kind of work through some stuff. But you know, that was terrifying to me. I got over that, but for a long time I was like, I don't understand why all the adults aren't trying to figure out death and like what comes after, because that shit is terrifying, and they just said it happens to all of us. So Sorry, I got a little distracted by a text. I was just like, it's amazing you guys aren't freaking out, you know, because you guys are closer to death than I am, I think, you know. And they're like, well, you know, we just go about our day and we'll get there when we get there. And I'm like, that's unacceptable. Why we need a team on this? Like, isn't there like a team of like death scientists working on that? Like, what happens, you know? And we're like, you know, we just don't have those answers right now. You know, some people maybe you know, feel like they got a better grasp on it, or they have certain beliefs, and totally cool with that. I think in some ways that's comfort, but for all of us, it's something that, you know, it's something we deal with, and it is kind of a terrifying concept sometimes. It's not to me anymore, but for, you know, a chunk of my life, I was like, man, this is fucking nuts. So maybe something that's just a little bit more headier as far as like the problem itself, you know, the not the fear of the spider is pretty bad, but the fear of the unknown, like what happens to us, the inevitability is also kind of scary. That's hard though. I feel like you guys, sometimes, you know, when you ask these questions, one, I think you're giving me way too much credit because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I mean, if anyone here doesn't understand that yet and just like hasn't realized, one, I'm in way over my head here, and two, I really don't know kind of what I'm talking about. I just I mean, I you know, the whole community has good ideas, but you know, it's nice to talk about those things because they're fun. I mean, I've always been someone, you know, in my group when I was like high school, high school and like college, I was always like, we had this like book of questions. I'll do another one too. I like this idea. Whichever one of you guys, it was two guys that suggested I just keep walking and talking and getting a couple in. Good call. You're right. And I should have done that from the start. I had like a book of questions. So it was like, you know, would you rather, you know, live 20 years of your life from now with like, you know, everything you've kind of wanted and then you cash out in 20 years? Or do you want to live for 60 years, perfectly healthy, but maybe you don't get everything you want? And then just listening to people, you know, like around the table or, you know, around the room. Yeah, well, I'm doing that one. Kind of come up with their answers. That was fun to me. And so that's kind of stuff I like, but I don't know. I've found, as someone who really enjoys horror and scary movies and stuff, I like being uncomfortable. Like I like having the hairs on my arm. That's an early trap. Wonder how often that gets people. I'm guessing not many. Although, let's be honest. This is kind of how he's presenting right off the start, so we'll see. I like being uncomfortable, like you know, the hair sticking up on my arm and just not feeling right, like knowing something's off, but I can't really pick it out. It's kind of, you've seen me in these games when someone puts like a random cube, you know. Oh, I actually thought that was a flame trap. Oh, crud. Where if I see like a random cube here, and I'm like, what is this for? I don't like that. I don't like not understanding stuff. So sometimes just throwing in a random thing throws me off, but it's uneasiness for me, and I don't like not getting it, or at least trying to fill in the blanks. And if I can't fill in the blanks, it'll like stick a little bit in my head. Are these Orbeez? No, they're not. That's cool. So stay there. Stay there. I think it didn't roll in the drink. I'm going to just get these so I can see. Because this whole room is going to be foobar. However, if this is only one block deep, let's get this. And one up high. That's a good angle. Doesn't quite hit the lip, though. Ah. And I only got one. So that stinks. Oop, they killed Harvey. So let's do this. Okay. and we just kind of run. But yeah, so it's not so much the jump scares for me. It's more just constantly keeping me in kind of a state of discomfort and waiting for things to come that never come and seeing the dark but not knowing what's out there. And, you know, the unknown is really, I think, at its base. It was fun to get out of there. At its core, you know, the unknown is the primal kind of fear in all of us. Like, shit, that's what is that out there? Is it a predator? Is someone going to like murder my family? Is it another tribe of people that's going to take my shit? So if the more you can kind of magnify that and really crank it up in that regard, I think you might want to touch on those. But there's so many options you could do. You know, what makes you afraid, and then just lean into it. I'd be curious to see what you come up with. If you ever do pursue that, just somewhere down the line, if I'm like, you know, it's like 30 years out, just shoot it to me and be like, hey, you know, check this out. And I'll be senile and probably have Alzheimer's if I'm not dead. And I'll be like, this is scary as fuck. So I'll get you there. All right, man. Thanks for the question, though. That was awesome.